Yes, good morning. 21st June 2022. Do you remember this year's prelims question? Talking about the highest length of the day is observed in, longest day is observed in northern hemisphere on which of the following days, or in which of the following. The options were related to first of the June month, first, second half of the June month. ऐसे options थे? Do you remember? So the summer solstice, 21st June, basically this is the date, second half of the June we can say. In the northern hemisphere we observe the longest day, especially exactly on North Pole on 21st June. There is 24-hour day, the sun is not setting. Okay, so this aspect you should know. In the northern hemisphere in Arctic Circle, how the longest days are observed during the second half of the June. Now, okay, let us see which are the important articles. So look at the first page. First set of Agniveers will join service in June 2023, says Army. So these developments are evolving regarding Agnipath scheme. So yes, up till yesterday we covered everything. You note down as an update to this particular scheme. This year the recruitment drive will start. Job rallies will start in August month and the registrations will start on the 1st July itself. Okay, and next year they will be joining this service in June 2023. Okay. And yesterday we have seen that government announced several, let's say, offers, incentives to those Agniveers retiring after 4 years of service. A preference will be given to them in CAPFs and Defense Ministry establishment, PSUs, everything. Okay, and even the government said that 10% reservation they will provide in Defense Ministry establishment, PSUs and all. Okay. Now come to page number 5 directly. Kerala to give maximum water to Tamil Nadu on page number 5. Now this article talks about, or this let's say statement is related to Siruvani Dam on Siruvani River along the border between Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Basically this dam is built in Kerala across Siruvani River and it forms Siruvani Reservoir. From that reservoir the water is diverted for the drinking water we can say requirement of Coimbatore city in Tamil Nadu. Okay, that's why this dam is built, and this was funded by Tamil Nadu government and it was built by Public Works Department of Kerala government. Right, so you should be knowing about this. We'll find out the locations about Siruvani river, its tributary of which river and all. Okay. See, on page number 6, there are two articles. The choice is narrowing the circle or widening it. Basically, the former vice president, Mr. Hamid Ansari, writes articles in the Hindu newspaper whenever, let's say, the concerns related to rights of minorities are in question. Okay, so you should be knowing about this, and he writes good articles from the society perspective, the social harmony, unity in diversity, and we know that there can be essay topic also related to, Indian society and all. So that's why you take input from the essay perspective and GS1 paper society part. Okay, why social harmony is important for India and all these aspects, and some examples, instances you can take input here. Overall, as such, the article is not, let's say, relevant directly to discuss here in this lecture. Okay, so I would advise कि आपने वो खुद से article पढ़ना चाहिए, and you can take some inputs for your essay paper. Then on bottom side, a case of the court straying into legislative sphere. Now the context here is Allahabad court recent two, let's say, judgments related to section 498A of IPC. Now this section deals with dowry cases. Okay, and there has been several instances of misuse of this article that general accusations are done by the, let's say, aggrieved person or victim, we can say, against the husband and his family, and immediate arrest are done as a non-bailable offence under this section, and that's why this has been used for in some instances I am talking here for harassment purpose also, or misused. So with that context, recently the Allahabad court has said that there should be 2 months of buffer time period, and the FIR should be transferred to one particular district level committee, and district level legal services authorities, they should intervene, and there should not be immediate arrest. Only this part is sufficient for our examination. Although there will not be specific question on this section in our examination, but you should be knowing that it is the interference, or we can say that the Allahabad court has gone beyond its role of as a part of judiciary, and it has went into legislative aspect, legislative matters. See, policy formulation, law making, it is part of government and we can say legislature. So here the judiciary, by intervening and changing the wordings of, we can say, the section 498A and the directions given to the police authorities, this is to some extent intervening into executive powers and legislative powers. So you can use this example whenever there is separation of powers related question is there. Okay. Now on page number 7, there is one article, resurrecting a dead law. Now this article we will discuss because we know that there has been already question asked in UPSC related to section 66A of IT Act. Okay, so recently there will be some negotiations at United Nations regarding the law to be framed, or international convention to be framed against cyber crimes, and Indian government had submitted one proposal to be included in that matter of the convention. So that relates to this section 66A of IT Act. So it was related to we can say the freedom of speech and expression, specifically we can say that the offensive messages on the IT platforms, or we can say information technology platforms, social media platforms, they will be criminalized. This was the subject matter of this 66A, and this was struck down by the Supreme Court in Shriya Singhal case in 2015. So you should be knowing this background. Already UPSC has asked that time this question related to section 66A of IT Act. Again it is in news, and whether it will be revived if this subject matter is included in that UN convention. Okay, so with that context this article is written. We will discuss the nitty-gritties involved. Now the next page. See, on page number 8, on bottom side, there is one article written, El Salvador's Bitcoin bait. So you should be just noting down in your notebook that El Salvador has Bitcoin as official currency along with US dollar. Okay, so there can be such kind of question in prelims examination, and you should be knowing this information that Bitcoin as a part of cryptocurrency is the official currency of El Salvador, this particular country in South America. Okay. Now on right hand side, text and context page, Dutch disease, the keyword is explained on page number 9. The Dutch disease means basically with reference to economy aspect. Whenever a country discovers the natural resource, huge amount of natural resource, then the country tend to experience distortion in economic sectors, particularly industry and service sector. Okay, so with that context this article is, or the term is there, Dutch disease. It is let's say referring to phenomenon wherein the country witnesses uneven growth across the sectors due to discovery of natural resources, especially large oil reserves. Okay, so such kind of question can be asked in the prelims examination. Keyword, So every time this keyword is explained in the text and context page, you note it down whenever it is relevant to our syllabus. Now there is one article on page number 9 from the archives, यानी कि ये पुराना आर्टिकल है, 1-2 साल पुराना, जो फिर से रीप्रिंट हुआ है यहाँ पर, solving the sterlite problem. Now you should know that in 2018 the Thoothukudi plant, this sterlite plant in Tamil Nadu, faced the problem because several people in the surrounding area of this plant faced the health problems, health issues, and immediately the plant was shut down. That time it was in news. This plant has facility of sulfur dioxide or sulfuric acid, we can say treatment or formation, and there was concern that sulfuric acid or sulfur dioxide was being released from this sterlite copper plant. Okay, so you should know that in last year prelims examination there was one question related to which of the following harmful emissions happens from the copper smelting plant. ऐसा question prelims में आया था, UPSC prelims में. The context of that question was the sterlite plant controversy in Thoothukudi, Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this is how you should know that whenever any kind of industrial disaster, chemical disaster happens, such kind of event happens, you should know what kind of pollutants, gases, chemicals are being released. That will be asked in the prelims examination, right? Okay. So here in this case you should know that sulfur dioxide, the major polluter that was released, and the people fell ill because of this. Okay, now moving on. Right, come to page number 12, and there is fine on page number 12, that is fine. Page number 13 you can see one small article is there on page number 13. Russia flays Lithuania transit ban. Okay, so Lithuania recently banned the transit of different goods, or let's say raw material like coal and yes, metals, construction material and advanced technology through their own territory. Let's say whatever the Russia is exporting, that material will not be allowed here onwards, because that material is sanctioned by the Western countries on Russian exports. So specifically you should know that there is one exclave of Russia, Kaliningrad. Okay, so what is this Kaliningrad location on the coast of Baltic Sea? We will find out that. Also the neighboring countries of Baltic Sea we should find out from geography mapping perspective. Okay, and on page number 14, Finance Ministry has explained, or we can say had said that India faces near-term challenges. What kind of near-term challenges? Like for example, increasing fiscal deficit or depreciating Indian currency, that is rupee, and widening current account deficit. All these, let's say, problems are highlighted here, although the Finance Ministry has said that India is well positioned to deal with these challenges in near future. Let's discuss these articles in detail now. First, resurrecting a dead law. First thing you should know that which particular law we are talking, IT Act 2000 and section 66A of this IT Act. Basically this section 66A dealt with criminalization of let's say seditious matter on online platforms. So this was struck down in Shreya Singhal case in 2015 by Supreme Court, by saying that this affects the freedom of speech and expression of the people under Article 19 of the Constitution. Okay, now with this background, let us understand what is going on at present. As a part of ongoing negotiations at UN for a proposed international treaty on combating cybercrime, India made formal submission for criminalizing offensive messages. Language in this submission is similar to what was used in section 66A of IT Act. This is the concern, and that's why resurrecting. So there are some concerns raised that whether this law will be brought by the government back into the Indian statute. Okay, so let us understand why this is not possible by the government. So article explains this part, that government will not be able to bring that law back into the statute even though such wording is included in the international treaty. First thing, international treaty negotiations are complex. It is premature to believe that India's suggestion of criminalizing offensive messages will be readily accepted. Already the European countries like UK and other countries, they have objected India's submission. So whatever the submission India has made, so they are feeling that this is basically encroaching upon the fundamental rights of freedom of speech and expression. It can be misused, abused by the state authorities. So there will be objection by those countries where the civic rights or such freedom, media freedom, or let's say in general rights of the people, they are valued more. So that's why we can say that it is less possible this will be included in that treaty. Then second, international law does not become part of domestic legal system unless it is specifically transformed into domestic law by the parliament. Okay, so which will be required to enact legislation to implement the international law. For example, in India, what we have is we implement the international treaty by enacting the law or ratifying that treaty by the parliament. Okay, so in this situation also, if suppose the international treaty is signed by the country, this will be required to be ratified, and to implement this provision there will be specific legislation to be enacted in the parliament. Again, less possibility, because already Supreme Court has struck down such kind of law or provision in Indian law. So even if suppose that is included, so that will be further, we can say that, removed or struck down by the court here. Now third point is, government may get law passed in the parliament using article 253 of the constitution. What is this article 253 of the constitution? It says that the parliament may enact the laws to give effect to the provisions of international treaty or agreement. Okay, so this is what article 253 is talking, and yes, the government may get the law passed in parliament under this, and we can say that this particular provision which was there earlier, that may be further included. But what if the constitutionality of reintroduced version of this section 66 is challenged in the court of law? Okay, so further Supreme Court will review such law and it may again struck down that law, because the basis for striking down the earlier provision is very clear. It affects fundamental rights, and fundamental rights are part of basic structure of Indian Constitution. They cannot be altered. Okay, they cannot be altered, especially when there is no specific basis for that. And yes, through Puttaswamy judgment, the court has put the proportionality test, and the action should be proportional enough here now through the law, right? So all these aspects you should know, that why it is difficult to bring back that law or section 66A of IT Act again into Indian statute. Fine? Okay. Now, Kerala to give maximum water to Tamil Nadu. Okay, so we are talking about Siruvani Dam across Siruvani River, and Kerala government has said that steps will be taken to provide maximum water to Tamil Nadu from this dam. considering water shortage faced by Coimbatore city. This was let's say said by Kerala Chief Minister. Now about this dam, it is located in Palakkad district of Kerala, near Palakkad city, 46 km away from the Palakkad city, just near the border with Tamil Nadu. The dam constructed across Siruvani river is for supplying drinking water to the city of Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. An agreement between these two state government was executed in 1973 for drinking water supply to Coimbatore town and neighboring areas of Siruvani dam. The location being in the state of Kerala, the project was executed by Kerala Public Works Department using the funds made available by the Tamil Nadu government. About Siruvani river, so it is tributary of Bhavani river, which is in turn the tributary of Kaveri river. Okay, so Bhavani river and Kaveri river. So Bhavani river is tributary of Kaveri river and this Siruvani river is tributary of Bhavani river. This can be also asked in the prelims examination. Remember, the dams, reservoirs and rivers of southern India, they are very, very important for mapping section of our prelims examination. Now, Russia flays Lithuania transit ban. You should know that Lithuania has put a transit ban here. So, Russia called Lithuania's decision to ban transit of some goods to Russia's Kaliningrad region unprecedented and vowed to respond. What was the background? Lithuanian authorities banned the transit of goods which are sanctioned by the European Union across its territories, which includes the only rail route between mainland Russia and Kaliningrad exclave on the Baltic Sea. The banned goods include coal, metal, construction material. Look at this map of Lithuania. Okay, this is Lithuania. It is you can see the coastal state of Baltic Sea. On this side, you can see that from the north we have Latvia and north of Latvia we have Estonia. On this side we have Belarus as a border and bottom side you can see that there is Poland. Now there is one small exclave here on this side. This is territory of Russia. Name is Kaliningrad. ठीक है, तो वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में लास्ट टू सेंचुरीज में ये कैलिनग्राड के ऊपर काफ़ी डेवलपमेंट्स रहे हैं. ओके, बिकॉज रशिया हैज़ बीन फाइटिंग फॉर दिस एरिया to have access to Baltic Sea. See, Russia is having two important access points for the sea and through that to the whole world. One is through Black Sea. At present the war is going on and we know that the access to Black Sea is very important for Russia there. And through this region, so when this USSR was there, this complete area were part of USSR, Belarus, Poland, or we can say this Ukraine, this region. And at that time there was no problem, but the state separated through, let's say, disintegration later, and this Kaliningrad was retained by Russia. There is one, you can see that this is ... this is basically the railway line, right? This railway line is very important for we can say it enters to Belarus and Belarus to Russia, that side. So Russia's export of this raw material through this railway line to Baltic Sea and Baltic Sea to Baltic countries and other countries in Europe, this happens. Okay, so here onwards Russia may strongly respond to decision of this Lithuania to stop the movement of goods from its land. ठीक है, तो ये आपको एरिया पता होना चाहिए. दिस इज Kaliningrad. Okay, Kaliningrad location. Now you should be also knowing the neighboring countries of Baltic Sea. So quickly we'll see all these countries of Baltic Sea, neighboring countries. This is Baltic Sea. Okay, so you should know which are these the neighboring countries or having border with Baltic Sea. Sweden is there, Finland is there, Russia is also having border from this side and this side, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Okay, these are also Baltic countries, and on this side this Sweden is there, and this Denmark is also there, and on this side Germany, and on this side Poland. Okay, in this manner you should know the Baltic Sea countries or having, let's say, border with Baltic Sea. Fine. So there can be mapping related question here related to Baltic Sea. Next, Dutch disease. This is keyword explained from the economy perspective. Dutch disease in economics refers to phenomenon wherein a country witnesses uneven growth across sectors due to discovery of natural resources, especially large oil reserves. So basically this term in economy relates to whenever there is large scale discovery. For example, we talk about Gulf countries. In last century there was discovery of this oil, and suddenly what happened is the trade or export of these resources suddenly increases a lot, and all the economic activity concentrates on the exports of those natural resources. So industry sector, service sector suffers, there is unemployment from that sector, and all, let's say, the employment and everything happens in the export of the harnessing and export of that natural resource. So this is how the uneven growth among that sector happens, different sectors. The idea was first proposed by economists Peter Neri and Max Carden in 1982, although the term was first coined by the economist in 1977 to describe the decline of manufacturing industry in Netherlands. What happened here in Netherlands? In 1960s, the Netherlands discovered the gas reserves in North Sea. The subsequent export of oil and appreciation of Dutch currency made Dutch exports of all non-oil products less competitive on the world market. The unemployment rose from 1.1% to 5.1%, and capital investment in country dropped. Okay, so uneven advancement or growth of the different sector happens because of discovery of such huge natural resources, reserves, especially of crude oil and natural gas, we can say. This is called as Dutch disease. India faces near-term challenges. Finance Ministry, which challenges India is facing? Let's see what Finance Ministry is saying. India is facing near-term challenges in managing its fiscal deficit, sustaining economic growth, reining in inflation, and containing the current account deficit. But the country is relatively better placed to weather these headwinds compared to other nations. Okay, now maintaining, let's say, or managing this particular near-term challenges carefully without sacrificing hard-earned macroeconomic stability is very important. Now, the upside risk to budgeted level of gross fiscal deficit had emerged following the cuts in excise duty on diesel and petrol. So, we have seen recently the government had cut the excise duty so as to ease the pressure on the prices of petrol and crude, so that the overall inflation level remains within the controllable level, manageable level. But that has the impact on fiscal deficit, because the revenue of the government reduces and the expenditure is continuing, fiscal deficit increases. As an increase in fiscal deficit may cause current account deficit to widen, then compounding the effect of costlier imports and weaken the value of rupee. This is called as rupee depreciation, thereby further aggravating external imbalances, trade imbalance we can say, creating risk of cycle of wider deficit and weaker currency. Okay, so this is, we can say, self-fueled cycle, and this is the concern you should know. This can be asked in the prelims examination. Nowadays UPSC asks applied question of concept. The concepts of inflation, current account deficit, all these, they will not ask what is current account deficit or what is inflation. Rather, they will ask the impact of one on the other aspects of economy. Yes, must control spending. Rationalizing non-capital expenditure has thus become critical, not only for protecting growth supportive capital expenditure, but also for avoiding fiscal slippage. Depreciation of rupee, however, still remains as long as net foreign portfolio investment outflows continue in response to increase in policy rates and quantitative tightening in advanced economies like US as they wage prolonged battle to calm inflation. Recently we had follow up on this. US Fed had increased the interest rate, and because of that our foreign exchange let's say investment or foreign investment like FPI, they fled the country, and because of that our foreign exchange reserves also declined. Current account deficit widened, our foreign exchange reserves decline. So this is the situation, and our currency will depreciate as these let's say outflow of foreign investment continues. ठीक है, तो ये होने वाला है because rupee, demand for rupee is declining. Depreciation of rupee means what? Demand for rupee vis-a-vis dollar is declining. तो उसके लिए आपको ये याद रखना है. Then the imported inflation, especially due to elevated global prices of crude oil and edible oil, adding the onset of summer heat wave, has also contributed to rise in food prices domestically. So crude prices may be tempered as global growth weakens and the OPEC nations increase supply in near future. So in general discussion on present let's say challenges faced by Indian economy, you should be knowing this. Fine. So what should be answer to this question? Yes. So with reference to economy, which of the following best explains the meaning of Dutch disease? Right. So just now we learned about Dutch disease. It is when a country witnesses uneven growth across sectors due to discovery of natural resources. Right. So this is the correct answer. Those who do not know about Dutch disease, they may get confused in first 3-4 these options, because we have framed these questions options like that. Okay, so student may not be knowing exact answer here. Now what should be answer to this geography mapping part? Yes. Which of the following countries does not have border with Russia? Just now we talked about the border with Baltic nation, but quickly we will also see the border with Russia on this side, western side. Okay, not from the southern side, but from western side. Simply you can see Finland is having long border, then Estonia, Latvia, and from this side you can see Lithuania is also having border. Okay, then Belarus, Ukraine. Okay, so and from the southern side you can see the Turkey and all these countries. They are part of, we can say, beyond the Black Sea. So on this side these are the countries having border. So the fourth option was Romania. No, it is not having border with we can say Russia. Also this Moldova, it is landlocked country and it is not having border directly with Russia. Poland is also having border with Russia. You can see here, this is part of Russia. Kaliningrad, just now we talked about. So Poland is having border with Russia, Belarus is having, so these countries are having border with Russia. Okay, so Romania, fourth option, D option is there in that question, that is not having border with Russia. Fine? Yes, any question? Okay, let us stop.
Welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Study General Studies with Lukmaan IAS for building comprehensive knowledge. GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, Lukmaan IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.